Right now at 6, case dismissed. A judge tosses out the charges against a former counselor accused of sexually abusing a teenage patient.
Plus, the tariff impact in Oregon.
This will cost us millions of dollars, and that money is going to come straight from our bottom line.
State leaders hear from business owners as they navigate the trade war. Then,
we want to use these tools to do better at our jobs.
Though could those tools violate your privacy? The debate tonight when it comes to where and when police can use drones.
Today, I made the decision to make this arrest a priority.
that was Portland Police Chief Bob Day talking about a man who is now in jail nearly 48 hours after an armed standoff in Northwest Portland that sent people scrambling from a restaurant patio. The chief explained why police did not make an arrest on Monday and talked about the decision to take action today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Christine Pitawanich.
And I'm David Molko. Police moved in this afternoon with tactical vehicles, robots, and tear gas surrounding the suspect in a tent and then safely took him into custody. Catherine Cook is live near Northwest 21st and Hoyt with the very latest. Catherine.
Well, guys, neighbors and business owners here are very relieved. They're pleased that he's been taken into custody, but they're also very frustrated with how long it all took to play out. Police telling us that they're pleased with how the scenario ended because no additional people were hurt. They say in this case, de-escalation was the absolute key they were going for, and they say they were successful in that. I want to show you some video we received from a local business owner who's watching the situation unfold. You can see the suspect there getting arrested by police. CERT team members closed off several streets in this area of Northwest 21st and Hoyt for, I would say, about an hour. So just a fraction of the time they closed off the area on Monday night. If you recall back then, it took about 3+ hours for the scenario to unfold, eventually leading with police leaving the scene as well as the suspect behind. So then for the last couple of days, the suspect has been holed up in his tent, still armed with 2 knives, police tell us, and pepper spray. And in that situation, police say they wanted to prioritize safety for not only the suspect, but the community and for officers. And they said they had planned to arrest him after coming up with a, quote, safer plan to do so. Well, guys, that unfolded this afternoon, again, with CERT teams surrounding the area. They say their tactical mission was to surround the tent with CERT team members so that the suspect could not simply run away from them like he did on Monday. And again, a little history for you. What started this all is the gentleman who has not yet been named was wanted on a couple of warrants, at least one out of Clackamas County for identity theft, as well as another warrant for resisting arrest in Multnomah County. But once again, guys, that man is under arrest, in custody. Nobody else in this area was hurt, but what a 48 hours here. We do want to hear from Chief Bob Day. Earlier, I asked him his thoughts on how long this all took and whether or not the community could expect these kind of scenarios with folks who are potentially houseless and maybe undergoing some mental health crisis, if this is the kind of scenario we could expect for all arrests. Here's what he had to say.
This is definitely a unique approach. We had a significant amount of information to go off of, not only the events of Monday night, but the last couple of days. We know that he had a warrant for resist arrest for prior involvement with law enforcement. I do think that this is an opportunity for us to continue to strive towards the mayor's plan of ending unsheltered homelessness, that we have a crisis on our streets, and I am very supportive of his initiative to try and change that dynamic.
A crisis on our streets is exactly what community members here have been experiencing the last couple of days. Again, a lot of mixed feelings with how this all unfolded. I can tell you the tent that was right here behind us on the sidewalk on Northwest 21st and Hoyt has now been cleared. We had a crew out here clearing everything away. And additional in the air was lingering pepper spray. We could all smell that. That was one of the tools that police officers deployed this afternoon in order to get the suspect in custody. Christine and David, back to you.
Catherine Cook, day 3 on that breaking news in Northwest Portland. Thanks so much, Catherine.
And in your headlines, one day after opening statements, a judge has dismissed a sexual misconduct case against a Southwest Washington counselor. This afternoon, Alicia Stowe's lawyers requested the charges be dismissed, and the judge agreed, saying the prosecution did not present sufficient evidence. Stowe worked at Daybreak Youth Services, and prosecutors say she had sexual encounters with a patient who was 16 years old at the time. The state of Washington has suspended Stowe's counseling credentials, as well as the licenses for the Daybreak facilities in Brush Prairie and Spokane.
In Aloha, one person has died after a crash involving 3 vehicles early this morning. This is around 1:30 on Southwest Farmington near 190th. The Washington County Sheriff's Office says 63-year-old Renee Jones from Forest Grove swerved out of his lane and then crashed head-on into another car. Jones died in that crash. The driver in the other car is in the hospital but should survive. The people in the third vehicle were not injured.
Multnomah County is touting a new dashboard aimed at tracking the area's homeless population by name. It launched today and it will track data monthly. County officials tells us this is the most comprehensive data they've ever had. It shows nearly 15,000 people were homeless in Multnomah County in February. It also tracks the homeless population by race. In February, 53% identified as white. Blair Best will dive deep into the data and look at the number of people newly becoming homeless each month. That is coming up on The Story at 6:30.
A temporary library is opening in St. John's after Multnomah County closed the branch there for a big renovation project. The temporary location set to open next month will be in this retail space. It's on the ground floor of an apartment complex at the corner of North Lombard and Richmond. It will remain open until the historic St. John's Library reopens in spring of 2026. The new library will cost $13 million and will add nearly 3,000 square feet.
Firefighters in Washington are training now to be ready when wildfire season hits. Hundreds of firefighters from across the state are learning everything from hose operations to helicopter safety. With federal agencies like the U.S. Forest Service facing layoffs, state leaders say they're ready to fill the gaps and keep communities safe.
If we find ourselves shorthanded, we're going to get help from Oregon, from British Columbia, from Idaho, or even from Southeast United States. So we're prepared to respond, and we hope that the federal government will continue to be a decent partner in all this.
The next training is scheduled for next month. The final training will then be in June. Matt?
All right, Christine, another beautiful day all around the Northwest. We're 68 degrees in Portland right now, but we made it up to 70 today, so our streak of 70-degree days stays alive. The record number of days overall in the month of April in Portland is 13. We're at number 6 right now, halfway through the month, so we're right on track. The record number of consecutive 70-degree days, though, is 8. That was set 4 years ago, but we're going to make it up to 6 because we'll be in the 70s tomorrow and Friday, and that'll tie for the second longest such streak, 70-degree days in the month of April. Pretty impressive. The other thing we're watching again tonight, and we watched this last night too, is the potential for northern lights. Now, we like to see this solar activity index, the K index, get down to about a 7 or up to about a 7 for us to have a decent chance. Right now, it's right around 6, so we're on the threshold. Forecast to drop a little bit tonight, so not the best chance we've ever had, but we'll keep watching it for you. If things change, we'll let you know later on tonight. Look to the north, get away from city lights, and be ready to let your eyes adjust, be patient, and it might not happen at all, which is often the case with the northern lights, right? Easter, though, that's going to happen on Sunday, and the forecast definitely cooler than the next couple of days. 45 in the morning, 50 at noon, 59 at 5 o'clock. Scattered showers, but the best chance will be later in the day. I think we'll be okay for Easter morning. More on the weekend weather a little bit later on, guys. Back to you.
Appreciate you keeping us updated. Thank you, Matt.
Now at 6, President Trump's tariffs continue to ripple around the globe, and today Governor Tina Kotek held a roundtable to get a sense of the impact on local businesses.
Celine Stevens sat in on that roundtable today. Celine, what are businesses and officials saying about all the uncertainty and the back and forth?
Christine, so a big talking point today was the need for predictability. With the on and off again tariffs, there's no financial stability. And one economist today made a point to mention that even if Oregon performs well on its own, it's not independent from the national economy, meaning if that tanks, then we tank.
People are struggling. This is not what we need right now. And I heard loud and clear from businesses that they are concerned
Wednesday, several business representatives came out to Salem for a roundtable with Governor Tina Kotek, as well as State Treasurer Elizabeth Steiner and a couple of economists. Concerns about the impacts of the tariffs imposed by the Trump administration was a hot topic.
So starting last week, we were impacted by this 10% tariff. We are on the hook for when we bring in and import these products. This will cost us millions of dollars.
Those costs getting passed off to consumers.
Our hand is being forced to pass on some of this increase to American consumers. The people already hurting the most with inflation when they go to grocery stores.
Despite the Trump administration pausing the higher individualized tariffs announced a few weeks ago, there is still a flat 10% that applies to all countries. For some like China, that percentage is up to 245% due to what the administration describes as retaliatory actions on China's part.
But the scale and speed at which these tariffs are coming down from the federal government and impacting markets across the globe has created a number of problems for Oregon businesses.
And if you think about a food product, by the time you see it on the store shelf, I mean, that had to start as a plant somewhere, had to start as a seed somewhere. So, you're planning sort of a year and a half out when you're making food products. And so it's hard to make quick changes if things change on a short-term basis.
Kotek stating if these tariffs were in effect last year, the state would have had a hefty price to pay.
Oregon had $28.2 billion in imported goods last year. If those 10% tariffs were in place last year, companies in Oregon would have had an additional $7.4 billion in taxes to pay.
Even really well-intentioned policies can have negative effects on companies.
The state treasurer pointing out how much this could impact families.
50% of families in Oregon cannot find $500 for an emergency. Economists estimate that the tariffs that have been imposed by the Trump administration would impact families on an average of $3,800 per year.
As for what can be done, while Kotek acknowledged actions by some like Governor Gavin Newsom to sue the Trump administration, Kotek says she's looking at what can be done in Oregon, with Steiner noting there's only so much they can do.
Right now, I don't have anything to share about our strategies, but we'll be looking at what California's doing, thinking about what we can be doing here. We want to protect our businesses, and it was interesting to see their strategy today, but we need to look at it and see if that's a good one for us.
Oregon government's capacity to help in this situation is limited by the fact that we're facing federal funding freezes at the same time that we're facing these tariffs.
The governor also says she's urging businesses to fill out a brief survey for feedback regarding the tariffs and global trade and the impact it's having on them, with one of the economists today even calling it critical, saying they can't address these problems if they don't understand the scope of the problem. Back to you.
Yeah, especially when that problem or challenge, whatever you want to call it, keeps changing. Celine Stevens in Salem tonight.